I think that no matter what we say, meaning people will tell you anything they think you want to hear, I think we as the beings that we are show what's important to us based off of what we do. I think it's fair to say that your actions and what you actually do are a real solid indicator of what's really important to you based off of where you invest your time and energy. That's reasonable, and the evidence for it is in the time that people spend doing the things that they do. You can tell a lot about people's value systems in a certain sort of way based off of what they actually do, what they invest their time in. And you can see the people that invest their time in superficial things, lead superficial lives, have quite superficial lives. As a for instance, people who are just focused on money seems to be a common thing. Many people get caught in it, and their focus becomes on attaining those pentacles through hell or high water. Now there's a part of this reality that's set up, a big part of it, where you almost kind of have to now, don't you? Yet when you go beyond that into things like greed or hurting or harming people as you try to attain more, the proverbial destroying your competition or your enemies, that type of shit, well, you start metastasizing into something completely different. And I think that's one of the traps of this world. This world shows us a lot of eye candy, a lot of illusions, a lot of flashing lights, shiny objects, scantily clad women, scantily clad men, and all of the things that humans need to tantalize and titillate the senses. Now, we have what you call the 7 Deadlies, which are more than likely 7 deadly vices that will destroy you. I'm not so sure they're the 7 deadly sins, but it's up for debate. Well, at least for people who have done deep thinking. And when you look at the 7 deadlies that you get from someone who knows things to a degree that most don't, and he puts forth those real 7 deadlies, it's an interesting thing. The things that are really sinful, most people are embroiled in. Most people do a lot of that stuff. They show it on TV: murder, rape, assault, theft, coercion, deception, these types of things. It's like, wow, the TV is nothing but coercion and deception. Oh, it's crazy. Through all that eye candy, through all the pretty pictures and things that make us go ooh and ah, through the pursuit of the money that we basically have to pursue to live in the world that we were born into, through the pursuit of these animalistic drives first, desires second, and for some people they become obsessions and other such things. It's like the human was made in such a way that, and then put into a construct that, with all the flashing lights, shiny objects, titties, and scantily clad men and women, with all of the lower 3 chakras level drivers within human that can really take hold. I mean, think about horny teenagers and keep boys and girls apart, especially if you know they know what's up, so to speak. Good luck with that. And then it only gets worse for the boys and the girl. I'm not a girl, but obviously I would suppose it gets, because we have an awful lot of sex, so the girls have their own fucking drives within them too. This is, I mean, to use the term dick-driven animal, I've used it a few times. It sounds crass, but when you think about it, that's the way animals work. Once they smell the bitchin' heat, once the proverbial dick gets hard, oh, the boys, the males will fight each other for that, and all this animalistic stuff. Humans, we do the same thing. Isn't it fucking interesting, the parallels that one can make to humans and animals when the human is unawakened, unbegun, unlearned, uninitiated, perhaps in the lower 3 chakras versus the upper 4 or all 7. When you understand the manifestations of human life for humans in those lower 3 chakras, you get everything from the sheep herd mentality to the dominators to survival mode, I got to get mine, and just all of that survival. Other types of more, when I say 3D focus, clearly we're in a 3D, but it's like these humans. And I'm not saying that I haven't been in there. I say I woke up when I was 33 because it's true. Well, when I consider the conditions that I suffered from when I went out onto my own until I hit 33, I've suffered from many of these conditions that I talk about, see within our society, the conditions that humans can be put in, how offensive they are. I have reasons for saying much of what I do. The thing is with some of the people that listen to me is they haven't matured and developed. Their egos are inflated or fragile and they're triggerable. They've never developed the self-control and self-discipline or the ability to inflect, the ability to recognize an emotion, what it's telling you, and then to be actually motivated by that emotion to take action, because there's another thing. Those emotions are supposed to just tell you it's time to take action about something. You as the human have to figure that out based off of the emotion and your environment or the stimuli, and then figure out what it is that you need to change. Well, these people that I'm referring to have never developed any of that fundamental understanding, on top of a desire to develop and grow and evolve themselves internally as beings, because that's where you truly reside, clearly. So when they hear things that trigger them, that make them feel in some way insignificant, lesser than, it's a real sad thing, because it triggers them, and with no self-discipline, no self-control, the emotional thing happens, and they want to go on the offensive and attack somebody because they recognize the somebody that presented them the information that caused them to feel a certain way as being the person that's bad, versus actually analyzing what was said and inflecting and seeing if what was said actually applies, because truth isn't always pretty. It's not always comforting. Now, when you have a bunch of humans that are in the lower three chakras, uneducated, unlearned, unbegun, hormonally driven, quote unquote, dick driven animals that have enough ability to learn things, and they've never really been given much more information than that of the information that you would get a slave or a worker to effectively deal with their own little basic life and getting out there and working within the system to keep that system going. Now you could say, well, we got to do that to have a society. Yeah, there is that, but there are things about this reality and the way things work here that make that model, it's like something went and found that spot and said, yep, we're going to take advantage of it in a more insidious way. So we got ourselves tripping over flashing lights, shiny objects, the almighty dollar, just to simply have a modest life or more in the world we live in. There is so much that we don't know about our animalistic side, the know thyself stuff, that lets us understand these components of us, and that the journey of man is to transcend. Or you can say, no, that's not it. Tell yourself whatever you want to. Inasmuch as I've been able to see it, the journey of man, and one of the separators between your human side and your animal side is, I don't even want to say your ability, because I don't know if it's anybody's ability. It just clicks one day. It just happens. Something wakes up in you and you start to see things you didn't see. Where do you want to walk away from the quote unquote animal side? You aspire to become more than that. You aspire to higher levels because you recognize the levels that can be attained, whether it's physical human performance, whether it's intellect, philosophies, whether it's humanitarian, whatever your thing is. Now think about this. It's just a perspective. I don't claim to have all the answers, but I'll be goddamned if I don't think about a lot of shit and come up with some reasonably interesting stuff sometimes and present it for people who listen as food for contemplative thought. If, no matter what it is, the Great Spirit in the sky, the Anunnaki, I guess that implies aliens and other weird things that, well, are not part of the reality that we think we were born into, because we were never given that information as a foundation to understand what is or could be actually going on here. You know, it takes a certain level of consciousness to recognize the trap that religion is. And all you've got to do is witness enough people who have been indoctrinated with religion that are as rigid as they can be with those religious dogmatic beliefs. You can see that rigidity in other places in their belief systems if you get to know them, most likely. But when people start parroting simple verses in a book that anybody that's done any work recognizes has a lot of flaws, from the translation from Greek to Latin, from the Nicene Council and who these people and who Constantine was, from King James, from the whole concept of Abraham and the Abrahamic religions, from the concept of the black cube being tied to all of them, from that tying into dark Saturnian, satanic, blah, blah, blah. It's amazing what religion does. And then when you put this stuff in such a way, this truth in such a way that once the human gets indoctrinated, it's right there and they won't see it. And then when you show it to them, they'll deny it because this belief became so strongly formed in their minds because something that understands our psychology indoctrinates the mind with this religious stuff. And when you, for instance, show a Christian that the cross geometrically folds up into a cube, that the Muzzies do their circle around the cube, that the Jews have their prayer cube on their head, and the implications of the black cube, these people are so enthralled in their religious beliefs, ideologies, and giving all responsibility for thinking and life in a lot of ways, not all, but a lot of ways, up to God or Jesus, never actually thinking to themselves, you have a responsibility to live your own life. You see what I'm saying? It's kind of weird how that works. So a perfect example. I'm frustrated. I'm angry. Or this, that, or the other. Oh, I'll just give it up to Jesus. Or I'm whatever condition or state somebody could be in, whether it's a mental, emotional, or psychological condition. The human doesn't have the knowledge, understanding, skill set, or tools to mentally, emotionally, psychologically manage or deal with that situation. I'm not criticizing them. I just see this as how this seems to work. Therefore, once indoctrinated, they'll never work to get out of that box of confinement, and they'll just be like, oh, I'll just give it up to Jesus. Therefore, they're never developing the skills to deal with X, Y, or Z in life. They're never teaching themselves. They're just convincing themselves that these basic Bible verses, well, they're not so basic. It's like there's another language, a couple languages, and layers of this book. Again, something that points to, well, there's some serious deception and encoding, an awful lot something didn't want us to know, and it starts to make you scratch your head. Okay, all right, well, step back. There's certain knowledge that could be very useful and helpful to humans that, for whatever reason, you may not want in the minds or in the hands of those people in the lower three chakras, because they're still like dick-driven animals that don't have self-discipline, self-control. And on some levels, giving them access to this knowledge could be harmful, detrimental to them, to the people around them, to other people. They could be in some ways like a monkey with a gun. And if we don't actually know that, well, it certainly looks to what they call the people that are more knowledgeable, the profane. I suppose they use the word profane, while it sounds really derogatory and demeaning, as a way to express the condition of those who remain in the lower three chakras. Now, when something above all of this, I'm not saying it's good, whatever the fuck it is that's the grand string puller, if for whatever reason, again, I'm going to caveat this. There's a lot of theories of what's going on. I'm just contemplating one of them. Let's say this isn't really a matrix. It is real as it can be. There is a vast universe out there. We were genetically engineered. The whole slave story of genetically modified slaves. The Anunnaki left, blah, blah, blah. Their half-breeds are here. They've been the 13 bloodlines. Whatever. I'm just trying to throw together a framework of what could be going on, because this is something that parallels this theory. This is what many of us seem to think may very well be most plausible when you consider at least what we've been told. Again, it's what we've been told about our DNA, about them, yada, yada, yada. Now, if human is half man and half animal, well, and something like these Anunnaki are watching, maybe doing what they can to influence and cultivate in whatever way. Maybe, for instance, the Jew could be very well a horrible yet and caustic yet necessary substance for some of the reasons I put forth in that video, like Messages from God, which was just a joke clickbait title to see if it would attract more people, but it didn't seem to do it. That whatever it is watching, and who the hell knows what criteria they will actually use. But if you were to think about it, it might be you first need to have transcended that human-animal barrier into the realm of a being that is clearly trying to transcend limitations of chemistry, biology, hormonally dick-driven animals, so to speak, and other such lower base level shit, in lieu of transcending that, in lieu of, I'm not saying abandoning these parts of us, but in lieu of transcending that into a higher state of condition of being called human, that develops and cultivates themselves for a level of, and I'm not saying like militant or anything, it's a process, self-control, self-discipline, so that we aren't, that we see the quote-unquote dick-driven animal condition and recognize what sex is, why all this just basics of humaning. This is partially why I've been so frustrated with my lack of received response based off of what I've been talking about know thyself. But everybody, now never mind. The world still has to mature in ways that most people wouldn't believe, because everybody's so used to the way things have been, they see themselves as all balanced and matured. And most people are those sheep. Most of those sheep don't think for themselves. Most of those sheep see this lower 3 chakras correlation I'm trying to illustrate. So the point being, what if the journey of man on some levels is transcending all of that? And look at the beast system and all the trappings that are there for you. From the days of prostitution everywhere and drugs everywhere. Well, we got that in certain places, but there were times where it was more socially unacceptable. Now everybody begins to realize all the human trafficking going on that's infiltrated all that shit. It's just also fucking disgusting. So, considering how dark and nasty this world truly is, if you function like one of those dick-driven animals and you're like, oh, I don't have a girlfriend, I think I'll go fuck me a prostitute. See, here's where the beast sucks you in, because that prostitute may very well be some trafficked person that you have no idea of. And then here you are making contribution. Yeah, look at this fucking shit. So look at what I'm getting at is, look at what they can do to you. Look at what they can lure you into. Look at what you can be lured into. Look at what you have available for you to consider as possible for you to do in whatever area it is. Drugs, sex, those vices, those fucking, that can pull you into a system, keeping you in those lower 3 chakras, an unevolved monkey, in whatever way any of that manifests for any of us. Don't care if you're a fucking gangbanger or a fucking millionaire. That's still lower 3 chakras level existence. You know, there's a chasm between the gangbanger and that millionaire that's, you know, risen to the top of a build a business. So much of what I'm suggesting, even for those people, is that lower 3 chakra stuff. And I'm not sitting here criticizing it. There's an aspect of it, obviously, that's necessary to exist in this reality. Thusly, the delicate balance between the upper 4 and the lower 3. It's a process. It's a process of transcending the lower 3 into the upper 4. I don't even know how you would properly articulate it. It's just you're always going to have the lower 3. And a whole and balanced being understands much of this, so that you could probably say all 7 instead of the lower 3. I just continuously say it that way to create the distinction between the 2 versions of human that you're dealing with. You know, if you see somebody that's completely upper 4 chakras, there's all kinds of ungrounded fucking behavior that you can see coming out of those people, because maybe they're stuck in some new age belief. It's all love and light and just I let spirit guide me, or some other version of that is still kind of sheepish, which still ties into the 3rd, lower 3 of not really thinking for yourself and being more like an animal that's more led and guided. And that's the thing. People have to recognize people are not this, and it's this religious doctrination and dogmatic bullshit that keeps them there. It's the fucking ultimate sorcerer's fucking like mind fuck. That the analogy of sheep, just thinking through that, and that sheep generally wind up on the shepherd's table. So do goats, for obvious reasons. Something more powerful than the goat, using it for food, feeds on it, you know, keeps it comfortable enough until it's ready for the slaughter. And then the sheep and the goat wind up on the shepherd's table. Say that kindly, politely, softly, and matter-of-factly to a Bible-thumping Christian that believes in their Jesus and their faith. See, when you're those lower consciousness, which is likely tied to a lot of those lower 3 chakras, there's just so many things and conditions to keep us limited that can manifest. And this beast system is really designed, has been built out to provide all kinds of numbing agents, traps, and this, that, and the other. And I think something is going to be judging at some point. What condition were you in? What did you do with what you were given? And I'm not saying you have to be a rocket scientist, meaning as a human, even if you never became rich, or if you became rich, did you do moral, there's versions of this that can apply for the lowest to the highest. What did you do with your existence as a human? Did you even take the time to learn about what you are, what you were? Did you transcend the animal into the human? Did you aspire towards Did you recognize the limitations? Did you aspire for more? There's so many questions you have to ask yourself. And when you look at it, it's like, there's a lot of crazy shit going on here. But the mindset of even most prisoners in a prison, they're like, you know what? I got nothing but time, so I might as well work out, get fit, stay in shape, sculpt my body, and do the best that I can do with what the fuck I have. So if a prisoner in a prison, no matter where they are in the world, will probably function largely from that base mindset at that point. That's what life's going to be. What are you going to do with it? If those people operate with some sort of recognition of that, as evidenced by many of them go through regiments. Now, why? They're in a real hard place. They're in hell, so to speak. Their own hell, prison, you could say. It's like, this is what I got. This is what I'm going to do. Humans still have to figure out that this whole reality is kind of like a hell, or is a hell. One of the realms of hell can be made to look like hell, or whatever you fucking want to frame it. And that to exist in that hell, like the prisoner, who has a base level of shit he must do to get fit, to defend himself, find like-minded people, etc., so he doesn't get devoured by the nasties. Humans don't even recognize their journey in the human prison, and that there's work to do as a human being in a different capacity. Now, when you look at people who are truly in their upper four chakras, or the balanced people, they're different. They operate differently. They come from a different place. They think differently. They perceive from different levels, because clearly they're operating from different levels. Now, the profane don't recognize this. The profane don't want to acknowledge or accept the levels. I mean, hell, I've been talking about the level system of awakening, levels to knowledge, levels to consciousness, just levels. And that's just what my 10th grade dropout ass has been able to figure out for myself. So those that aren't profane, that possess knowledge at a higher level, considering what that knowledge could do in the hands of people that are unaware of what can be done with it, aren't evolved enough as the very beings that they are to have transcended the animal, ergo self-discipline, self-control, not dick-driven. Because in this reality, when you're a dick-driven animal, the evil can entice you with pretty girls, the allure of lots of easy, free, and abundant sex. And look at all the Epsteins and the Diddies and the Jimmy Saviles and the Pizzagates that did all of that, along with all the other twisted ass shit that it did. But look at that model. That's where the devil gets you. There's so many other scenarios you could create of other things. It is fucking mind-blowing. And the most, now, new level, new devil. So just because you transcend into the upper four, all seven, you've transcended the animal, so to speak. You're in control of it. You're working towards evolving yourself in whatever way you can with what time you have here as a human to be the best version of human that you can fucking be because you want to. Now, rising above the limitations that you see that were imposed upon you, well, it requires a certain level of consciousness to get there and see that awareness. And then a level of will to fucking transcend it, to rise above it, to make yourself more, to be more, to learn more. Think about that. Now, I know it's just part of the thing, the indoctrination. I mean, we get it from the Egyptian stuff all the way to Christianity about judgment, waiting heart. It's just there's some concept, there's a model given to us that something's going to have this moment with us where it's like, what did you do? Call it judgment. And I'm not a big fan of the whole model, but as I think through this, I just wonder if, for some reason, one of the judgment criteria as to whether or not you go on to something better, I don't even know what that would look like. You could argue that that model means that we stay subordinate to some God that creates realities for us to go and experience, and we don't just go and create our own reality or whatever. I get it. But I think what I'm really trying to illustrate here, almost trying to instill this understanding, hopefully seed a desire within those that hear the words, to recognize this condition of man. Look at what they're doing to the world. The only way these horrible things won't happen to you is if you transcend there are certain things about yourself, whatever they may be. I'm nobody's fucking judge, at least in the context I'm delivering this, so that they can't do to you what's being done. If you see the mind control, how do you stop that? If you see the mind control through beliefs, how do you fix that? If you see the level of control they try to levy on men by putting titties out there and all these hot chicks and fucking string bikinis and camel toes and all this stuff to draw the eye, to get that first drip of chemical in your system, to be like, oh, think about it. This is what the quote unquote beast system is fucking created to do. The whole beast system is the quicksand designed to suck you the fuck in. And the journey is to transcend all of that shit. Let the devils reign in fucking hell and transcend it. Apparently there's more than one path to do this. Schools of philosophy vary. But I would suggest to you that the Delphic Oracle was giving humans some of the most profound truths that await those who dare to find that all the treasures of the treasure of treasures is within man, whatever you call God or the gods. And I'm not suggesting from a subordinate, oh, how shall I serve thee, Lord, bullshit, slave mindset, gods kind of thing. We really don't understand. The universe, that whole concept, you really got to sit with, what are they actually telling you there? You could come to the conclusion, well, they're deceiving the living shit out of us. Even then, that's the whole Matrix program, even back in ancient Greece, even back in the Egyptian days with the pharaohs and all these, scientists and smart people and the gods were with us. It's all deception. I get it. Okay. But when you realize what DNA is, what can be in DNA, we don't understand who people are on this planet, meaning what their DNA consists of. There's a lot of interesting shit. When you realize how much they don't want you to know and the degree of work you have to put in to come to know, well, that's an interesting little dynamic that should be smacking everyone across the face, but you've got to be at a particular level of consciousness for that awareness to cross your path, or at a level of consciousness that has you listening to other people that might drop that nugget across the path of your mind, and well, there you go. I can't say for sure, because nobody gave me the scepter of truth, and the great spirit in the sky hasn't kabonged me on the head with a bat full of knowledge. It's just a joke. But when you look at all of this, there's got to be something to it. I don't know what, I don't know to what extent, but this transitioning, well, yeah, it would be a transition, but transcendence was the word I was looking for. You're transitioning from this lower base level dick-driven animal into a human being that embraces their higher faculties, uses the faculties, recognizes the faculties, works to develop faculties, abilities within them. And none of this from a place or space or a context of developing power and control over anything else other than yourself and your immediate reality, so to speak. A plant is a plant, and it doesn't possess the potential in its genetics to become anything more than that plant. Take the seed of that plant, of that tree, plant it. It will become exactly what it was engineered to be. It can't be more than what the code within it is written to be. Same with the animal kingdom. Tigers are tigers, dolphins are dolphins, eagles are eagles. These things in reality, at the levels in which they exist, these beings, consciousnesses, plants, a particular type of consciousness, animals, a different type of consciousness, and we can see the variance in it, from the lower animals to, look at orca, look at whales, look at elephants, look at certain animals. You can see high levels of intelligence and empathy, family. It's interesting. So you can see the levels. Well, look at humans. And we're a barrier species, I think, in ways that most humans aren't aware of, because we're that species that is somewhere between the spirit world, being maybe the next level, who the hell knows, or, for us when we die, for sure, it seems like, versus going down the evolutionary chain of life. From us, I guess you do have the animals. You see what I'm saying? So we're stuck in the middle of that evolutionary, and who the fuck knows what is beyond that, spirit or some other form of bipedal that has a different body, that lives longer, that you just never know.
And I'm not talking about this from some fantasy land. I've never gotten out and only played video games, kind of fantasy mind. I don't have the ability to cognize anything. No. It has nothing to do with that. Certain things have been given to us that allude to levels, up or down, heaven or hell, 5D versus 3D, whatever model works. Now you can get into the arguments that these levels are all contained within this system. I get it. But here's a point. Do you think you are going to get out of this system if you want to and see it for what it actually is without having to acquire the knowledge and do some work, whatever it is for you, for me, for the rest of us, to get to a point of the evolution of your being as a human so that you possess the knowledge, your energy is a place that's possible, an awareness, you've developed yourself in such a way that you may carry with you an understanding of what happens when you die, and you can make different choices. There's a lot of implications to this. And as you can see how the world seems to be trying to drive humans in every way that it can to being obedient slaves, lower 3 chakras, dick-driven animals. And every time I've said that in this video, so it's known, that means ladies too, because men are driven by the dick, women are driven for the dick. It's a crass analogy. Is it or is it not? Is it nature? Is it reality? And is that what we do? And is that not why most of us are all here? Now, when you think about the dick-driven animal that has sex from the places the dick-driven animals have sex, producing children, well, that's a far cry from the human that's existing in their upper 4 or all 7 chakras, awake, aware, tuned in, aware of energy, aware of their sexual partner, aware of their energy, aware of a lot more things at a higher level of being, has done work to transcend the lower 3. They've done the inner work. They've healed the inner child. They've let go of all the stuff. Now they're energetically, mentally, emotionally, psychologically in a much better, different place as a human being. Then they meet somebody who's also done similar things, come together, fall in love with each other, have the energy of love between them when 2 humans come together as one, doing that whole thing. And conception takes place with the energy of love and all of the right stuff, because there's a metaphysical thing going on here, possibly even an alchemical thing going on here. These are the types of things that humans ought to do with a level of knowledge of what it is they are actually doing, because what they are doing by bringing that life here is going to have a vast impact on that life for the duration of its life. It will affect the life, the development, and all other things. Therefore, let's look at the 2 dick-driven animals. You're hot, he's hot, she's hot, great buns, great butt, hot, juicy sex, boom, boom, boom. Turns out he's a train wreck. Turns out she's a hot mess. Turns out we're never going to stay together. Turns out we fight. Turns out. All kinds of shit happens. The kid's caught in the middle. The kids see those 2 fucking fighting like cats and dogs until they finally fight. This all goes into the kid's head. All of this because the B system had us functioning as dick-driven animals. We made choices to get with somebody based off of the dick desire. And I'm generalizing, but I think you get the inference there. We didn't vet we didn't do human properly. We didn't understand the implications. Nobody told us. How else could it be? We're born blank. If we're doing what we're doing, how is it that we're doing it? Society's built to make us see that as normal. We don't understand. I mean, this is freaking crazy, but we do not understand the energetic and metaphysical implications of our own energy and then combining our energy with another to produce a child. The implications of that shit are profound, as evidenced by look at how many fucked up people there are in the world. And that's from trauma. I'm not talking about people who had things put into their body that cause damage, that causes certain fucked up behaviors. That's not what I'm referring to. But you could include the narcissists in what I'm talking about, because they're what they are because of the fucked up people that raised them. And when you start looking, well, what creates this? Well, you start looking at humans and how they operate from a lower 3 chakras versus upper 4 chakras perspective. And it starts to reveal itself. It starts to show that there's a line, a divider that separates the human from the manimal. From the man-animal. Think about it. I mean, they were showing it to us in a little bit of a way in Battlefield Earth. When they're like, the man-animals. Manimals, whatever you want to call it. It's interesting. So, as the Jews call the Gentiles, Goyim, and I understand it's offensive. It's as offensive as calling, any other race the derogatory slurs that we call each other. But when you look at it, this is where the real rubber meets the fucking road. Because if I were one of the gods, and I was either the one or one of many that were together on a team assessing, analyzing, quote unquote, grading, and I don't mean You're bad. You're a dirty sinner. We're all going to fuck up. There's aspects of being human that you're going to run into it. Did you learn? Did you teach? Did it teach you something? Did you evolve into a better form of human because of these experiences? Versus, you're bad. You made a sin. You have to go back and be punished. No. Did you transcend the animal into the higher order being? Does that mean that the higher order being who's married, who has their life partner, their one and only, so to speak, does that mean that they're not going to, at some points, indulge in each other? No, it doesn't. It doesn't mean that sex is off the table and blah, 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 all that quote unquote boring and stale stuff. You're just doing those things from a very different place, and you're likely doing it with the right person for you, if that makes sense. And I'm not saying that there's only one. I'm saying that you, as a higher level being, made the choice that didn't come from your dick as to who you wanted to, or your desire for the dick, or money, or those lower base level things, to choose who. You used more faculties. You used what was given to you to judge and assess and make determinations, yada, yada, yada. Oh no, let's just give it up to spirit. And that's where the demons will put the narcissist in your fucking life, or something like that. It wouldn't surprise me if things like that happen. The more we relinquish our fucking will to the spirits to make choices for us and bring just the right person into our lives, like a lot of these fucking new agey people and others, even others. Oh, spirit, the Christians, whatever. I think that when we take the elements of our critical thinking, our assessments, what's our gut tell us? What's our heart tell us? What's our mind tell us? There's so much involved in this. And this all ties into what I've been telling people about us in so many ways not meeting the minimum requirements. No, I don't say that to say human's bad. I say that to say, look at what we're missing. Look at this. When you start thinking, look at what we don't know, and start asking bigger questions. Well, why don't we know it? Something doesn't want us to know. Something hasn't taught us. Then start doing research. Then start asking questions. Then start feeding your mind and learning. Once you start learning, then you start growing. Once you start growing, your mind starts to expand. Once your mind starts to expand, your consciousness goes with it. And oh my God, you start a journey of becoming more than you once were. But once you pursue knowledge, oh, that's a double-edged sword. Once you pursue growth, well, we'll find a way to make the condition that you were in before you started growing not very viable anymore. You see what I'm saying? There's something to that, humans. Whether they're evil, which is clear, or they're on the team light side. If they're the initiated, the awakened, just throwing a few labels in here of things that you might think. Those who possess the higher levels of knowledge. This presumes that there is good people that really do. There is a way out. They do know it. They just can't give it to the proverbial uninitiated monkey, so to speak. And there are reasons for that, or everybody would know. I wonder. I really wonder. I hope you people are able to sometimes empty your cup when you listen to me and get your ego out of the way and recognize that wisdom comes from the mouth of a child as much as it could from the mouth of an old man and all points in between. And if the barrier between what I'm telling you and it sinking into you and is your ego and or your judgment of the messenger, for whatever reason, your ass would be compelled to do that, driven from some egoic place, completely not letting the message penetrate your being because your ego has become like a fucking shield so that wisdom doesn't even penetrate you, or you can't even recognize it when it's spoken to you. This is a condition of man, that's for sure, especially in their lower three chakras. And I want to reiterate, there is a certain context that dick-driven animal actually applies to someone who is driven by or for, and thinking from that. Strictly animal, hot, blah, blah, blah. That's a general term for people in the lower three chakras. And there's an awful lot more behaviors. So, I got to get mine. He who dies with the most toys win. There's lots of mindsets, behaviors, and places from which the human operates that are a lot more animalistic from the lower three chakras. And it's really easy to drive the humans that are in that place because they're not thinking for themselves. So through the influence of their minds, we can then begin to pull their strings, herd them as sheep based off their beliefs because they haven't gotten out of the lower three chakras into the upper four and began to think for their fucking selves. That's a real big deal. So from everything from the animalistic, driven by your sexual urges, to not thinking for your goddamn self, much like a herd animal. When you start to contrast the difference of the humans who operate from those upper 4 or all 7 versus those who are trapped in the lower 3. Look at this, people. I guess I'll just summarize it and end it with this. Would it be possible that something could be judging and looking for, and that's what the resets are. Every so often they come back and they take from us, those of us, and I'm not saying I'm going to be this version, if this theory even holds true. If this could all just be fantasy thinking here. I just wonder. And at every reset they come back. Since we possess their code, possibly we are a lot like them, they are, all that stuff, they may take a special interest. They make this place really fucking hard because they know ultimately when they're done, finally done, not everybody's going to come. And that they will wipe out the species. I mean, the history has shown they don't have a problem killing most of us. You see what I'm saying? Therefore, they probably have some requirements for those that they choose in whatever way. You could argue that, yeah, they want the smartest of us, the best of us, and that they'll take us and then we'll be their slaves on their planet rather than slaves on our planet. I get it. But I'll be honest with you. Something about this tells me that no matter what, if we as humans don't do that work to transcend that animal side into the upper 4 or the all 7, we're never going to be prepared to ever make a reasonable decision. When we die, we might have some knowledge. You see what I'm saying? If we don't do that work, we're never going to fucking know. If we don't have this understanding and the foundation of knowledge, when we die, we may not have any understanding of what we're experiencing. Our consciousness very well may, if you put in the time, effort, and energy and work here to figure certain things out. Who the fuck knows? You may very well carry certain awarenesses with you, your consciousness, when you die and transition into the next phase of, well, death, if you will. If you haven't done the work here, whatever this elaborate thing people say takes place once you die, you may be like, oh, the light, let me just go to the light. Or, oh, there's mom, and let me just go run to mom because mom's just waiting for me. And boom, there's the trap. There's so many versions of this that could fit. And I suppose to get out, you've got to figure out, find, determine the right one. Ultimately, I think those who are going to find their way out are going to have to find a way to do the things that Buddha did. Detach from everything. Love it from a distance. Fucking don't engage it. Don't feed it. Don't have emotion towards it. Don't judge it. Total neutrality. That sounds fucking ridiculous now, doesn't it? But I think when you look at the story of Buddha, there's an animation that's about 10 minutes long that kind of shows a summary of his life. And they depict some of the battles. And it was like this whole good versus evil. They depicted this thing where he had to stay neutral or non-judging or in a state of love or whatever the fuck state he was in while they were coming over the hill. And at some point along the way, when it seemed like they were just about to overrun him, poof, they all turned into like flower petals or fucking butterflies. And that symbolized that he had reached that moment. I just wonder how much of this stuff and what specifically is the combination, is the recipe. Of the many things that really piss me off about being here is no answers. So that humans can begin to get a true and accurate beat on what we should be focusing on as humans. See, something wants us to just be so enamored by being human. And I don't know, maybe there's some of us, quote unquote, spirits or souls that have been here, they call old souls that have just done this so goddamn much. We're in lives. Now, I'm speculating. Maybe I'm wrong. Where we truly are ready to leave. We want the fuck out. And there's going to be pitfalls and things that are trying to, crabs in a bucket, pull you back because they want you in their game. I just wonder. I mean, when you step back and look at the game, we're born blank and programmable. And so much of our lives are going to be predicated on and based upon the environment in which we're grown, developed as peoples, children, with our parents, that whole epigenetic thing, what it is they know, their level of development, emotional, mental, and psychological maturation, and the way in which they live and exist in their life based off of where they're at in their life. You get to be largely imprinted by them. And if they've already been imprinted by the system and their lower 3 chakras, dick-driven animals, it's likely many of us will repeat those same patterns because we're so programmable. Monkey see, monkey do. And if you've ever known people where you knew your friend's parents, and you knew your friend's parents for years, as well as you knew your friend. So you could see Joe's father and how he behaved certain times, and it's strange. You knew Joe. You were friends with Joe's son, who's Dave. So you saw Dave's dad, old Joe, over the years since you knew Dave as a kid, and you saw how Dave's dad was. And strangely enough, as you observed Dave's dad and the mannerisms, you began to watch those behaviors come out of Dave. That's what I mean. Fucking monkey see, monkey do. A few of us transition past or beyond the patterns of programming our parents put into our head. Their ideas, their values, their ideology. Some do transcend. Many do not. And from a perspective of human trauma being passed down from lineage to lineage, many of those generations struggle to break those cycles and look at the condition of the humans in the world and look at the effect it's having on the actual degradation of the fucking species. When you're born blank and you're born into that, the only chance you have of transcending it is something snapping you into consciousness. And you know the strange and yet sad thing, it is what it is, judge it as sad or good or whatever, is that for most of us that will ever wake up out of that condition, it was copious amounts of pain and suffering that did it to us. Having our fucking lives, or whatever it is, relationships, your whole world turned upside down, pain, suffering, turmoil, those types of things, unfortunately, seem to be for a substantial percentage of the humans who will wake up in this life. Seems to be the fucking recipe for that awakening. Doesn't seem really benevolent now, does it? Doesn't at all to me. Oh, we're going to stick a spiritual cattle prod up this motherfucker's ass, and turn it on 12. And we're going to leave him there for a while. Yep, that'll wake him up. And if that doesn't, nothing will. And you remain part of the system. Recycled back, that kind of shit. Anyway, do what you will with what I've said. Think of me what you will. Listen to this guy. Who's this guy think he is? I can just hear that. This is the type of stuff that comes from humans that literally grew up in ways that are shame because they're in the condition they are. It's amazing to live your life online, to not know what true relationships or bonds look like outside of the internet world, to completely lack the skills or a desire to develop them of socializing and all those other things. When you can hear people who can so clearly tell you, explain to you, this is how you do it. This is what you do. Go out and try it. See what happens. Fail a little bit. Learn from it. Just like Babe Ruth. Home run king. Also the strikeout king. La, la, la. So rather than actually fucking put any time into being human. No, I don't want to do any work. Seriously, this is fucking ridiculous. Fucking ridiculous. So stay in your lower three chakras. Stay uneducated, unbegun, dick-driven animals. And let the system fucking lick their lips as they figure out how they want to devour and consume you.
This world is not what you think it is. This world is not what you think it is. This world is not what you think it is. This world is not what you think it is. This world is not what you think it is. This world is not what you think it is.